This is my new favorite camera. It's a camera I've been using extensively for 6 months, and it's a camera that has pushed my photography in ways that I never really expected. Yes, it's the Fujifilm X100VI, and as I get through the video, I'll talk about the profound effect it's had on my photography and how that you can apply those things to your creativity as well, without it necessarily needing to be with this particular camera. There's been a lot of hype around this camera, and this isn't necessarily a technical review. It's kind of my lived experience of this camera over the last 6 months. So why did I pick up the X100VI? Well, Fujifilm is the camera brand that I love most for stills, and it's been that way for a while. I've got a bit of a history with Fujifilm. I've had the X-T1, the X-T2, and the X-T4 in the past. I think I had the X-H1 when that came out as well, and before this I had the X100V. Now, whilst I love Fujifilm for stills, I'm not 100% set on it for video. I use Sony stuff for all my video stuff, and that comes from my freelance filmmaking background, and I still kind of like the Sony stuff more for filmmaking now, and that's what I use to make these YouTube videos. The reason I kept my X100V was because I wanted something purely for photography, but there were a couple of things about that camera that were lacking for me. The first one was the autofocus wasn't great on it, and the second one, which was the main one, was the lack of IBIS, which is what this camera now has. That's the main reason I bought this camera. Is basically because I don't like using tripods all that much, and I'm trying to do more low light photography. So the introduction of IBIS in this was a game changer. Whenever you're upgrading your camera, I'd say only do it if you are truly limited by what your current camera can do. I was being limited by the fact that the X100V had no IBIS, hence the upgrade to this. These cameras to me feel like the perfect creative companion. They're smallish, they're stylish, and most importantly, they're fun to use. And as I've used this series of cameras over the last few years, they've played a bigger and bigger part of my life in me documenting the things I do and in carrying them everywhere, like I've spoken about before in my videos about having an everyday camera, which this is to me. My journey through photography has been evident on this channel. I used to do landscapes all the time, but more recently I've been trying to capture, it's almost like a boundary between street and landscape. It's those moments in everyday life that often are in a scene that I like the look of that you don't always come across. I've done a video on this before called The Moments in Between, and the more I do that, the more it kind of touches on street photography as a genre. And street is something I've always been intrigued by, but always pretty scared of as well. And for anyone that has shot street, I'm sure you can relate to that. Despite the fact I've been a professional photographer for quite a long time, I am always still learning. And street is something I identified that I wanted to improve at. So recently I've taken a Skillshare class called Street Photography, an in-depth and complete guide by Troy Baird. And it's a brilliant, detailed class that's taught me how to think differently and given me real confidence in my approach to street photography. And I think when it came to street, that was the thing I was really lacking. The things I've learned more from this class are how to see familiar scenes with fresh eyes. Manchester is the nearest city to me, and I often go there and I really struggle to make images that I can connect with. On that note, injecting emotion into images was something else that I've tried to learn in conjunction with street photography, and also just being a bit more brave and confident about what I'm doing, because I think that lack of bravery is the thing that really held me back in trying to do anything street related. I've used Skillshare for a number of years now, and it's the largest online learning platform for creatives. And what I love about it is that it's designed to help you build creativity into your life. There's classes taught by world-class creatives, and there are so many photography classes on there by professionals doing incredible work. It doesn't matter if you're starting out or if you've been shooting for years like me. There is always something to learn as a photographer. In addition to photography, they've got classes on animation, editing, design, illustration, and so much more. The best part is the first 500 people to click the link below or scan the QR code on screen will get a free month's membership to Skillshare, enabling you to learn as much as you want in that time. So click that and you can start joining classes right away. I actually headed out yesterday with my X100VI into Manchester to try and shoot some street photography in a way that I've never actually done it before. And yes, it was terrifying. And I'll show those images a bit later on in the video. So I've talked about these kind of cameras before being my everyday camera, and I genuinely do take this everywhere with me. I've made a bit of a point more recently about trying to do this a bit more intentionally. I found that I had my camera with me, but I wasn't necessarily always looking for photos. So something I've been trying to build a bit of a habit around recently is going on a daily walk and actually looking for photos. I think building that habit of seeing and having a vision and basically just being completely open to your surroundings rather than distracted by your phone or something else. That's something that's going to really help improve your photography, and having a camera that you're willing to do that with is obviously the foundation to that. So I've been doing photo walks, I've been taking it into the city, I've been taking it on my travels, I've been shooting it on ferries. It honestly lives around my neck most of the time, and that's one of the benefits of it. I don't mind wearing it around my neck because a camera in a bag is a camera that's not being used. I've captured so many moments where I'd normally have either have left a big camera at home, or I just wouldn't have got it out of my bag because it just seemed too much of a bother. This has let me experiment more without pressure. And the previous iteration allowed me to do that as well, but this just gives me more confidence, especially in those low light situations that I mentioned earlier. So it wouldn't be fair to talk about this without talking about the strengths and the weaknesses. And first of all, I'll talk about the things that I love about this camera. Firstly, the image quality and the lens in it. The lens is the same as the last iteration, so I didn't have any problems with that before. The image quality has had a boost in this, which really doesn't affect my thoughts on it. I'm not someone that pixel peeps or chases megapixels. I was fine with the resolution of the last one. The fact that this one's got a bit of a boost, which means I can crop in a little bit if needs be, is an added bonus. The film simulations and colors, from what I can tell, are basically exactly the same as the last one. And the film simulations are one of the things I love about this camera. I've also mapped them to this little button on top here, so I can press that button and cycle through different custom recipes that I've put into this camera. I don't actually really use the inbuilt film simulations before. I've got all these recipes that are linked below that I've put into this. I've spoken about doing this before, and there's loads of videos teaching you how to do this as well, but I definitely recommend mapping them to a button if you do have one of these cameras, so that you can easily change which recipe you are using. The ibis I've spoken about, I've shot this in some really low light conditions and got some images from it I really like, and that's something I'm going to continue to do. And also it's small, it's pretty discreet. I think the black version is more discreet than the black and silver version that I had in the last generation, and this, especially when it comes to street, kind of helps you blend in a bit more. If I have my A7 R5 with the 35mm lens on it, that just screams photographer, whereas I think you can get away with using one of these a little bit more. I think the biggest strength about this to me is that it just inspires me to shoot. It's a fun camera. I look at it and it makes me want to pick it up and go outside and shoot with it. And to me, that's the most important thing about having a camera. You need to have a camera that inspires you to shoot. That is the most important thing that you should consider when buying any camera. Probably above the specs. You could have the most specced out camera in the world. If it doesn't inspire you to shoot, you're not going to use it. So it's just pointless owning it. This inspires me to shoot. I love taking this out with me, and that is probably its biggest strength as far as I'm concerned. Just one other thing I should probably mention about this, which is quite a unique feature to a camera like this, and it is the built-in ND filter. And the last iteration had this as well, but it is so useful. It's useful if you want to shoot wide open, where the shutter speed can't go fast enough in really bright conditions. And it's also really useful for video as well, because of the shutter speed limitations when it comes to trying to get smooth looking video out of a camera like this. And it's really easy to switch on. You just hold down that little trigger there for a couple of seconds and it activates, and you turn it off the same way. It's a really good feature that I think is quite underrated in this camera. There are some weaknesses though. Battery life isn't great, especially if you're doing video with it, so you can't really go anywhere without at least another spare battery with you. It has got a USB socket on this now. I don't think the last one did. Maybe it did. I honestly can't remember. But you can just put a USB cable in and charge the battery doing that. I got a bit stuck when I was on the ferry that I had a USB-C cable. I had this camera and my battery was going, but I didn't have anything to plug the other end of the USB-C cable into. I had my iPad in my bag, so I was actually able to charge this off my iPad. So that was a really handy thing to be able to do. Another weakness I'd say is it is an expensive camera. This was £1,600, which is a lot of money for what is probably a luxury. You wouldn't use one of these all the time as a professional, I don't think. So it's almost like a second camera to take everywhere. If you're a hobbyist, then you can certainly get by just by owning one of these. But if you are a hobbyist, I get that £1,600 is a lot of money to spend on a camera. However, there aren't really any alternatives to this at that price point. You could get one of the other Fujis with an interchangeable lens that would probably cost a bit less, but you may sacrifice size, image quality, and potentially weather sealing. That's another thing that is a weakness, actually. You need to add a filter ring and a filter on it to weather seal this. The body's weather sealed, but the lens isn't, which is a bit frustrating. And I guess the reason for that is they didn't want to make it any bigger by including weather sealing in the lens. The other kind of competitor to this is the Ricoh GR series, which I've never actually tried. I keep meaning to try it out. The thing I don't like about that series of cameras, just from looking at it, is the lack of one of these, the viewfinder. That is a strength of this. The viewfinder is a really useful thing. I love using a viewfinder either optically or electronically. This allows you to change between optical and electronic viewfinder, and I use the viewfinder for the majority of my photos. I would really miss that if I had one of the Ricoh cameras. However, the Ricoh cameras you can actually fit in a pocket, whereas this, I know I've got this square lens on it. Even if I took that off, I think it would still be a bit cumbersome even to put in a large coat pocket. There are some other minor irritations. For example, getting from photo to video mode is harder than it needs to be. You need to go into the drive menu and go down to video, and yeah, it's a bit of a frustrating experience. I wish there was just a button to just press to change between photo and video. That would make it a lot easier. And also, although it's got the IBIS, which helps with video, the autofocus still isn't great. I wouldn't be confident in speaking to this like kind of as a vlogging camera when I'm out. I'm not 100% sure on how good the autofocus would perform in that scenario, and also the screen doesn't flip round, so I can't see what I'm recording. But these are minor things because, like I said earlier, I bought this as a stills camera. I bought it as something fun to take out. I just thought there were things that I should mention in case anyone else is considering one of these. So 6 months with this has really taught me that photography isn't just about having an eye and having technical skill. It's about having a camera with you wherever you are, because you will always come across moments that you might want to take a photograph of. How many times have you been stuck in like a supermarket car park and saw an incredible sunset and just taken a shitty photo on your iPhone? These moments are always happening, and there's a reason there's that saying of the best camera is the one you have on you, because there's so many of these things that have happened that I wouldn't have been able to capture if it wasn't for this. Yes, I could have used my iPhone, but I don't really like using my iPhone for photography. Might be the lack of viewfinder, might be the fact it's trying to suck me into every single app on there. I'm not sure, but I don't know. I prefer using this to using my iPhone. And as my photography tends more towards these moments in between over time, this is the perfect camera to suit that need. I think this has pushed me to blend the genres between kind of street and landscape. It's helped me to overcome some of the discomfort that I feel when I'm out shooting in busier places. I think it helps me to shoot with more emotion. It helps me to connect more with scenes. And like I said, the most important thing about this is that it's fun to use for me. I never question anymore, should I take my camera with me? I've got my Sony. I'm quite often, I can't be bothered to take that. It's too big. I'm not going to use it. Never question taking this. So it comes everywhere with me, and therefore it can facilitate the type of photography I want to do. This has been my real big change. Photography used to be planned shoots. It used to be trips. It used to happen in bursts. And I captured some amazing stuff when I was photographing like that. But a lot of the time in between those moments was just frustration. I wished I was out shooting, but because I thought I was limited to those occasions, there wasn't a lot I could do about it. There's restrictions in my life, like kids, family, work, whatever, that meant I couldn't shoot. But now it's a habit, and I'm making photos closer to home. I'm making photos wherever I go. And it's so genuinely fulfilling from a creative point of view, and it's fun, and it's just opened up a whole lot of photography to me when before I'd put all these self-imposed restrictions on it. It's completely changed my mindset around photography, and I think it's just had a huge positive impact on my creativity and in turn my life and my mental health as well. It's been massive, and is not this camera that's responsible for that, but this camera has facilitated that change. And I don't think my bigger, more professional camera would have ever done that. I go out every day with this, and whilst not all of the images that I take are great, I mean, most of them aren't even good, but the amount of good images I'm now taking is so much more than it used to be. I'm really enjoying blurring those lines, like I said, between landscape and street photography. And as I'm now kind of, from using this, embracing street photography a bit more, that's just something else that I find fulfillment from. I loved my time in Manchester yesterday with this camera. I've immersed myself in the streets. I was paying attention to everything that was going on in a way that I've not really done before. I saw things that I wouldn't have noticed in the past, and I just opened myself up to it. And this camera was the tool that I needed to be able to do that. There's some shots in here that I really like. There's some that are absolutely terrible as well. But I really enjoyed that experience, and it's given me a huge boost to do more street photography as I continue, because again, it's just increasing that accessibility. I think landscape photography can be quite inaccessible, whereas if you live anywhere near an urban centre, street photography is something that's so accessible. It can be done in any weather, at any time of day. And there's so much you can learn from street photography that you can apply to different parts of photography as well. So don't do what I did and just restrict yourself to a certain genre of photography. If you want to get better at landscape photography, don't take away from landscape photography by doing something else, but supplement in between with doing something else, because that volume will just help you get towards whatever your goal is a lot quicker. So who do I think this is for? I think it's for people who want to build photography up as more of a regular creative habit. It's for people that want to notice things in the everyday. It's for people that want to document life. And it's for people that aren't necessarily just interested in technical perfection. You don't have to have this particular camera to kind of go on the journey that I've been on over the last 6, 12, 18 months. But what you do need is a camera that inspires you to shoot. You do need a camera that's fun, and you need a camera that you're happy to take anywhere with you. This ticks all those boxes, which is why the X100VI is the camera that has changed my photography. I hope that's been useful. I hope you got something from this video, even if you aren't planning to be an X100VI shooter. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out Skillshare below, and I will see you next time.